Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Today's guest actually visited us here in Melbourne last year. That's where I met him. And when I met him, I thought to myself, wow, that surname is very much the same surname as another OG of Dave Krstic. Turns out they're actually not related, but they have exactly the same quite unusual surname. So
it's bang on.
It is. So we are really looking forward to getting to know today's guest. He's a black belt at GJC Academy in Perth.
GCJ. Yeah, that's
GCJ. I knew I'd stuff it up.
I get it wrong as well, so no stress.
GCJ Academy in Perth, which is a relatively new academy. As I said, looking forward to getting to know him a heap more today. He is Ricky Krstic. Thanks for joining us, Ricky.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Hey, it's awesome to see you again, and great to have you on the podcast, Ricky. Just straight off the top, mate, it's a new gym. You've been open 12 months or something, is that right?
Yeah, so we hit our 1 year mark last year, just past November 23rd. Still new. It's early days. Yeah.
Mate, congratulations. Tell us a bit about it.
Yes.
And get the name right.
That's me.
GCJ Academy originally was ground control jiu-jitsu academy. When we went through the process of getting the registrations and stuff done, I missed out by like a hair of getting that name registered, unfortunately. And throughout that process, throughout that time, we'd already sort of done a bit of just a bit of marketing and had the branding and stuff done. So we had to sort of make a decision on whether or not we were going to rebrand completely and change the name, obviously because we couldn't use ground control, or just stick with GCJ Academy, which is what we ended up doing. And to be fair, everyone kind of abbreviates every gym name anyway, and I probably don't know what half the gyms stand for. We were happy to sort of look, we'd done the branding, we were happy with it, we'd done some marketing, we're like, look, let's just strip it back, call it GCJ, and that's just what stuck, and that's where the name came from.
And tell us about the decision to, I guess, start up a gym and where it came from.
If I don't go back too far in terms of my martial arts history, I always had an intention of opening up at a gym once I got into jiu-jitsu, just because of, I guess, the massive change that it had on my life. One of those common cliches that you hear, it literally did change my life. And then it got to a point, I was a black belt teaching out of the Academy of Mixed Martial Arts. And I had a plan for about 2 to 3 years to open up my own gym. I'm a tiler by trade. I'd also went back to university and got my psychology degree, just trying to look for a different out and how I could do more jiu-jitsu. And it turns out that one of my PT students, who's now my business partner, Andrew, I think you guys would have met him when we were over. We were just having a chat about our future plans, and I kind of gave him the rundown about what ideas I had and what I wanted to do. And he just said to me, like, look, man, I've got a similar dream, and I'm in a position where we could probably pull the trigger a little bit earlier if you wanted to. Just kind of sat down, had a meeting, went over it, made sure we were both happy to go ahead. And it was pretty interesting, actually, because it all happened, like, I think we had the conversation in October, maybe a little bit earlier, and we were open November 23rd. Wow. It happened really, really fast. Everything, finding the location, organizing the mats. I did have a pretty good student base already because I've been teaching for 4 to 5 years prior to that. So it's just one of those things where it's like I was unsure. I'm like, everything is almost too perfect, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, is this how easy it's meant to be? And I'm like, well, if it's gonna work, then it should be easy, right? It shouldn't be too challenging. And it really wasn't. Like, everything, the way it all rolled over, and like I said, me and Andrew, we get along really well. We both had the same kind of mission plan and a lot of the same ideas. And then, a year later, it just, I'm still very grateful, and it's still a little bit surreal to me that it all happened the way it did and took off the way it did. So, yeah.
We were just talking before, Ricky, like your days can be pretty long there too, right? Like, you're not just rocking in for a 5 o'clock class. You're putting it out there a fair bit too.
Yeah. I've got a thing where I like getting things done on my own. Even I was a tiler for 15 years, and by the end of it, ended up the last 6-7 years working for myself, by myself. Just because if I want something done, I know how it's going to get done, and I don't have to think about it later. I've kind of carried that across. Which, look, admittedly, I don't think long term it's probably not going to be sustainable. Like, there's only so much you can put out. But yeah, for the moment, it's all me. I'm taking all the classes. We run a 6 a.m. a lunchtime class. Kids at 5, adults at 6, adults at 7, and that runs from Monday through to Thursday. And then I'll do a kids class on a Saturday morning, 9 a.m., and then an open mat afterwards. So I've kind of set it up where I get like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't do Monday 6 a.m., so I get lunchtime. So I've got a nice little chunk there. But once I hit the deck Monday afternoon, it's like, yeah, it's pretty hectic. Come Thursday night, I'm wrecked. Like jiu-jitsu gets me over the line because I'm like, it's like a kid not wanting to go get out of the pool. Like, I'm having so much fun and I just don't want to leave. But yeah, it's like I said, as I get older, it's not as sustainable too. So that'll be the next sort of
skill set. Yeah, it's actually a skill set, I think, in letting go.
Yeah.
Like, I know that through my businesses, when you're training people up or whatever, there's a time where it's so important to let go, but it's so bloody hard to do, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing how you do with that.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not just me by any means. In terms of coaching stuff, like I have my wife, Nikki, she's a purple belt. My son Chase is a orange black belt now. He's 14 and a half, going on 15, and a really competitive kid. He's been on the competition circuit since he was like 6 years old. My youngest son, Theo, is 10. So I was fortunate in that sense where initially I thought, like, this is my pursuit. I'm going to go and open up and I'll run my classes the way I was, because I was teaching elsewhere and doing my job and study and whatnot. And it wasn't until we opened up that I realized how much of an effect my family would actually have on the gym. Like Nikki, for example, is a real social person, and she just kicks so many goals when it comes to like the women's side of jiu-jitsu and women's open mats. Like, we've had 30, 40 women deep on the mat off the back of her.
Wow.
Which is really impressive. And then, stepping down from that, my son is a teen. So any teenagers that come in sort of attract towards him. And then I've got a 10-year-old and we all care the same because it's our gym. Whereas, for other people, you might employ someone or whatnot, and look, they'll care to an extent. It's never going to be the same as, what you would yourself or was your family member would, because, we're definitely all in this together. So I can't say that it's just me. And if it was just me, oh man, it would be a very different picture. Hey, yeah, I couldn't imagine it. Yeah. So.
Did you say that you have like a 7 p.m. class, and then so that goes to what, sort of 8 p.m. or so?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Does it
so basically
kind of hang around a bit later? Or
yeah, what I did is I set it up so that my 6 p.m. is fundamentals, and then 7 p.m. is advanced / open mat. So usually what will happen, I try and take the teacher's hat off at that 7 o'clock class, because I've got a few guys in who I enjoy working with and troubleshooting with. And I don't like teaching all the time. I kind of just want to, hey, let's mess around with this and have a look at that. So sometimes we might end up troubleshooting and just working on some stuff for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. It might take up the whole session. Other times we just fool around and roll. We get stuck having a chat sometimes till like 8:39. Nikki's going, she's left 2 hours ago. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm still here. We're just talking, how that post jiu-jitsu high. So that can get tough, because then I obviously have to back it up in the morning.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. It's a tough turnaround then, getting home after 9 p.m. plus, and then having to get up for an early.
That's the tough one. I do try and I try and wrap it up by 10:30, 11 o'clock latest, and then I'm up at 5. So if I do get an early night, like some nights it won't always be that late. Like I might get a 9 o'clock night, I'm home, so I'm bed at 9:30, and then getting up at 5 honestly is no problem. I can just kick on. It's more so if we have like a hard night rolls, and then I come home and I'm feeling pretty wired, and then I might eat late, and then I'm waking up and I can still get up, but I don't feel as rested. And look, you can push on as much as you can, but it will get to a point where there's only a certain amount of energy you can exert during the day. And especially for me, my biggest energy sort of consumer would be the kids class, if I'm being fair. Like that 45 to 50 minutes, I really, really try and give it my all, regardless of how I'm feeling. So it's definitely a balancing act, and one that I've gotten better with over the year. And I've also sort of started to make arrangements and plans as to kind of what class I'd knock off first to give me that little bit of an extra sleep in, and who I might incorporate next. But, being a year in, like that was that was the last thing on my mind. Like, I know that I have to be here, enthusiastic, enjoying it. And if I'm not, then why would anyone else want to be there? So I'm really adamant on that at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so your wife, Nikki, who you're saying she's a purple belt.
Yep.
So was she doing jiu-jitsu when you guys met? Like, how was this a mat romance? Did you meet away from the mat? Like, how did you guys meet?
Yes. No, so she well, I've got my martial arts background goes back from when I was little. Like, my dad took me to
Tell us about that, Ricky.
I can kind of give you
interested in those sorts of things.
A rundown of how it came to fruition. So I first walked into a dojo, and it was like a traditional jiu-jitsu dojo when I was 5. My dad just took me in there. So I got a bit of a mix of everything. There's a little bit of judo in there, a little bit of a striking. To be fair, it was probably the closest thing to MMA, if anything. But there was no contact. And it was one of those things where it was like, oh, we don't do competitions because the stuff that we do can kill people. And, as a 5-6-year-old, years later, whatever. But I was there for probably, 7 or 8 years. And I really underestimated what that actually did for my martial arts until I came back later on in life. Just because I built so many fundamentals in terms of movement and balance and just the connection between my brain and body. Through my teens, I came away from martial arts, played soccer, did the rest of the stuff, that other teens do. I ended up, long story short, coming back to martial arts in my late 20s. So I was 28 or 29, almost about a decade ago. And I'm a big MMA fan. I'd watch UFC forever and the rest of MMA and whatnot. And I brought my oldest son in. He was probably 5 at the time. And we took him to AMA, and he did a few classes, and he was just too young. So he was like, he wasn't taking anything on. We're paying the money. And I knew straight away, like, this is kind of pointless because, he's not getting anything out of it. And I thought, you know what? I'll pull him out. I'll join. And then I'll just relay to him whatever I'm learning because he's 5. And then I remember going into AMA on a Thursday morning. I remember it like it was yesterday. I walked in. I said, I've done some martial arts as a kid and a teen. I have no grappling experience, but I'm 100% willing to learn. And then Adam Metcalfe, my coach, he was brilliant, like the most inviting person. I had to seriously a lot of things in our relationship changed my life. But I got onto that mat, and I honestly don't remember a day of not being on the mat since then. Like that was it.
Wow.
As soon as I stepped on, I was like, okay, now here it is. I found it, and I'm not going anywhere. And even through injury, through the ups and downs, through the depressions of jiu-jitsu, you know how it goes. I was kind of forced to be there in a way because even if I was injured, my son was training, so I was still going and watching, helping the kids. And then eventually, Nikki was doing like a kickboxing for fitness. Looked at a bit of the jiu-jitsu. She was coming to all the competitions, and then got her to try a class. And that's usually how it goes. Like, you got to sort of hide it with a little bit of kickboxing for fitness. You get one girl over. It's like, try this out. And then they sort of all start coming over. And then, she's a really competitive person. Like, she was like a state sprinter as a kid. And that's where my son gets it from, my eldest, particularly. And then, from then it really became a family affair. And it was cool because we didn't have, obviously we're family, we'll love each other, but we didn't have that one connecting factor that jiu-jitsu brought on. And it seriously changed everything. Like, everything was revolving around health, fitness, being together, being supportive, trusting one another, friends. You guys know what the jiu-jitsu community is like. Dominance, the time I spent there, I can't say enough nice things about you guys, Lincoln and Dominance. And the reason that I really enjoyed Dominance is because it felt like home, just kind of on steroids, because Dominance has obviously been there for a lot longer. So it was really, I love that about the place. And it's just something that I wanted to replicate with jiu-jitsu, what it did for my family, what I can give back to other families, what I can give back to kids. I see what it did for my confidence, for my health, for other kids' health. It's, preaching to the choir with you guys. It's just, it really is the cliche fits. Jiu-jitsu seriously changes lives, which is really cool. Yeah.
You mentioned, Ricky, that you've got about 30, 40 women at your gym. Like, what's the secret sauce there? Because I have to be honest, like, as big as Dominance is, we probably don't have that many women.
I'll rephrase. So it's not 30, 40 at the gym, but we'll host women's open mats that will attract 30 to 40
that many
women at once. Yeah, we don't have that many in the gym. I think at the moment we're probably at about, it's pretty small, probably about 6. More. With teens, we probably get a couple. I don't know, between 8 and 10 off the top of my head. So there's a few there. It's definitely growing.
Yeah.
Like I said, as a young gym as well, there's sort of just the feel out process at the beginning and getting your head around the marketing and how stuff, getting your name out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, when it comes to gathering that many numbers, that's like more across Perth. And to be fair,
okay. Different.
And if I'm being honest, Perth, all the gyms across Perth do a really good job of bringing the girls together.
Yeah.
I have noticed though that I'm not saying because she's my wife, but she does do like a particularly good job of it. Like if we put on an open mat, I'm just like, hey Nick, like put out the bat signal, jumps on, like she's like, yeah, it's going to be a busy one this week, and I'm like, sweet, you do your thing, man. So yeah.
Fantastic.
I think that's such an important point to make. It's jiu-jitsu can be about your business and what you do, but really it should be about that community. And I think, look, I've only been doing it for like 6, almost 7 years now, right? So not as long as you guys for sure, but seeing that you're allowed to go to other gyms and your coaches aren't like, you're not allowed to go there. If you go there, you should just quit and stuff, this cross training and trying other gyms and like creating those communities. It's so important, and it's whether, you come in and training with dominance for a little bit to get some help or to get some experience or whatever it might be that you're trying to do. But going to other gyms and seeing what other people are doing and taking little bits away from, each person that you train with or you learn with or you compete against, which I think is just as important. I think it's super important. So to do those sorts of things and you're getting those sorts of numbers, and that speaks volumes to the Perth community getting behind, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's a massive thing. And it's sort of, I kind of compartmentalize it in a way. Like, obviously, so we have SGT here, which is our biggest local comp. When we have SGT and we're a couple of weeks out, I'm not going to send my competitors to go cross-train somewhere, right? Obviously, it makes sense. We've got a comp coming up. But that's a local comp, right? So now, for example, me and Chase actually will be back over in Melbourne in like 4 weeks. We've got grappling industries coming up. If we were to say, for example, be going with a few people from AMA and they will go on to grappling industries as well, well, then we'd cross-train now with AMA and we're training as Perth. And then we're going interstate. Then I'd imagine if there was a bunch of guys going overseas, if we could, maybe for example, I was planning to go to Worlds. I know that Lincoln's gone to Worlds and maybe my son's going to Worlds. Maybe we could tee up a couple of weeks before, come to Melbourne, train together, and then we're all coming and representing Australia. So I think there's always a way that you can sort of find healthy competition, but not in a way that it becomes detrimental to the greater community, which is, and you see it amongst professionals all the time. I know obviously there's beefs, but for the most part, professionals will have a matchup. There'll be an MMA fight. One guy will beat the crap out of the other guy. And it's like, hey, like what happened? Like, let's train together. Pereira knocked out Strickland and then a week later they're training together. So I think things like that are really important. And it's something that I really push to my competitors and obviously my son in particular. It's like competition is right when it's time for competition, but there's also time for growth as well. And when it's time for growth, you can lower your guard a little bit. Go and talk to the kid who beat you at the last comp and it's like, man, you dominated me for back control. Like, what was I doing wrong? And he's like, man, you were just doing this. It could be something really simple. And if you can, I guess it comes back to that ego thing, right? If you can just let it go and let's try and get better and enjoy this rather than just be competitive all the time. So getting the best of both worlds for sure. And then making sure that the community grows at the same time. Yeah.
You mentioned injuries as well before, Ricky. Tell us about those. What sort of injuries have you had and how have they affected you?
Yeah, man, you know how you have some people who have like never get injured and then people who always get injured? I'm closer to the person who always gets injured. I'm very stubborn though. So I'm like, no, stop. I've got I had a knee reconstruction from playing soccer years ago. So that was even before I started jiu-jitsu. That actually put me into a bit of a downhill spiral that jiu-jitsu pulled me out of. I was, became really overweight, really unhealthy, really unfit. And then when I kind of found jiu-jitsu, that pulled me out of that spiral. I've never had problems with the knee that I've had reconstructed. However, I had a gang of jiu-jitsu injuries. I blew my left ACL in lockdown, just not dealing with it properly. I tore the short head tendon from my pec to my bicep. I've had tennis elbow that's been aggravated for like a year. But to be fair, a lot of these things were probably very preventable on my part. I didn't do the best job of recovery and just preventative measures in my earlier stages of jiu-jitsu, when I was a little bit younger, when my body could take the beating a little bit more. It'd be like competition prep, and I just smash through rather than doing a good recovery. I'm like, I'm sweet. And then it wasn't like, I'm not old, but I'm coming on to my 40s now. I'm 39, and I'm starting to feel the sort of remnants of that, and just like, dude, you need to slow down, or, you got high output one day, low output the next day, do some recovery, really organize and plan your training. And that was something that was, I had to balance coming in to owning a gym, because now it's like, it doesn't matter if I'm injured, I have to be there. I don't have a choice. I've got to be able to, at the very least, I want to be able to demonstrate the drill somewhat. If I have to resort to pointing because I've had an operation, that's one thing, but I don't want that to be the case. So I'm definitely a lot more cautious of that now. It's made me more cautious of how I roll. It's made me more hesitant to compete, obviously, because it all rides off the back of your business, and which is something that that's a personal challenge. That's something else that I'm still planning on looking at down the track. But yeah, injuries is definitely a tough one. And I've always said it's like jiu-jitsu is a race to technical proficiency before you get too injured to continue. If you get good enough, then you can kind of slow down and then you don't get as hurt. But yeah, you can see how many people drop off to injury because they just don't understand how to slow it right down, or how to roll and catch and release and flow and whatnot. So yeah,
the balance is like this ongoing dilemma forever, right? Like you get a bit, and this is a classic thing in life, I suppose. Like a 40-year-old Ricky could sit there and say to a 20-year-old Ricky, "Hey man, like you got to do the things, like slow down, do your recovery." And 20-year-old Ricky's going, "Fuck that."
Yeah. No, man, I'm sweet as. I'm sweet as.
I think 40-year-old Ricky's saying that too, though, Brentos. That's the problem.
Well, I know. Yeah, that's stuff. I know.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps telling me that. They're like, "Dude, you're still," and I'm like, "Why am I feeling like this? Then this is not good." Yeah, I actually have that conversation a lot of like, get that age thing out of your head, man, because you're not even close. Not even close. Like my coach.
Not in this room, sorry.
Yeah, well, Adam's, I don't want to get it wrong. Sorry, coach. But I'm pretty sure 55, 56. And man, we rolled last Sunday, and I'm just like, dude, like, yeah. And it does give me hope, though. Like, I'm not like, I'm too old, I'm ruling out and I'm stopping. I'm like, no, I'm aging, my body's changing. I need to be smarter. I need to be more efficient in the way that I train, in the way that I recover. So I don't have any intention of slowing down, honestly, like none. I'll die rolling. But it's just a matter of figuring out how to make that physically possible. Yeah.
Give us an Adam Metcalfe story, mate. Give us something that he's taught you. Because the guy's a legend.
Oh, like Adam.
I've met him a few times, and he's always been so nice and so kind. I've seen him over at World Masters. He always takes the time to come and say hello. Like, he's a very genuine person.
Yeah. Been on the podcast before too.
Yeah.
I don't know what episode number, but yeah.
Long story short, I didn't have the greatest kind of role models throughout my teens and adult life, like a lot of the time. I had kids when I was young and stuff like that, but that's something else. With Adam, when I first met Adam, what clicked to me straight away was that lifestyle was possible. And I think that was the biggest thing, because I looked at him, I'm like, what? Like, where? I just tell, like, what do you do? He's like, oh, yeah, he's chill as anything for starters. Chill as anything. Yeah. Like, you can never get an anger response out of him, anger emotion. Just that doesn't happen. So I'm like, what's going on there? And that's that black belt, 4th degree, whatever it is, darkness. But it was the lifestyle. I'd seen he's up every morning at 4. He's at the beach, and then he's at the gym. He's doing his thing. He's teaching his classes. He's always traveling. He's really chill. And then I spent a lot of time at the gym. Like, when I wasn't working, when I wasn't tiling, or when I wasn't studying throughout my degree, I was at the gym, and I could just see that lifestyle was possible. I started working at the gym, obviously as a coach, and then I started working there as a staff member as well, working behind the desk. The idea of that was to try and get the reins of the back end sort of stuff. And Adam knew that the whole time. One thing I will say is he obviously knew that the whole time. He'd sort of nurtured me into the coach that I became, gave me the 6 a.m. class that I ran at AMA. I had 20, 30 people. There was almost a club within itself. And he never, ever discouraged me or disheartened me. Never said, don't do it. Anyone else could have easily just kind of, slow your roll. There's a risk of losing members here. When he came to private lessons, he never took any money off me. All the privates were straight to me. let me use the gym whenever I wanted. I ran self-defense courses in there that he let me use the gym free of charge, where, easily could have put a price on it and said, for this many hours, this is how much the gym costs. There's rent, there's overheads, this and that. I know now, especially as a gym owner. So he really sort of painted this picture for me of how you can set yourself up to give back to other people. And that meant a lot. That meant a lot. And I really do try my best to hand that down now. Same sort of thing with the gym. I will give it where I can. Self-defense courses that my students might want to put on, no problem. PTs, stuff like that, no problem. I think the biggest thing was just he paved the way. It was paving a way for gym owners and jiu-jitsu owners particularly, and showing them that the lifestyle is possible. It can be done. It's not easy. It's not easy, man. You really have to, you got to love what you do, because if you don't, the effort reeks. And when you get, when I get to the nighttime class tonight, and if I don't want to be there, trust me, people can tell. Maybe I can phone it in once, twice, and you get away with that one over a month, 2 months. And the thing is, people won't tell you. They'll talk between each other, and then the retention rate just drops. And you're like, what is going on? It's like, well, dude, if you don't want to be here, I don't want to be here. But man, when you walk in my gym, I'm like, hey, let's go. Hey, you're excited. Yeah, man, let's do this. And that's a thing that I learned from Adam. He was never not happy to be there. I mean, given there's times where you're tired and whatnot, and your students will see that. It's like, coach, man, you're tired today. You're like, yeah, man, but you're still kicking on. And then they appreciate that, because it's like, dude, this guy is busted up and he's still giving his best effort. And then it comes, you get it back. Like come holiday period last year, we didn't take any time off. And then come this year, my students were like, dude, take a week off, take a week, 2 weeks off. Like, what are you doing? Like, just close the gym, have your rest. So I hope that was a bit of a long-winded answer, but I would say Adam definitely has paved the way for people, actually showing them how to live that lifestyle of jiu-jitsu. Yeah, definitely.
You mentioned those 6 a.m.s are like a club within themselves, and I agree wholeheartedly. I know you and Brent were talking prior to the pressing record about Brent's not a 6 a.m. person, and I totally am. I know, especially when I came back from my elbow injury, that was like the best place to be. I encourage everybody, if they can, to get to those early morning classes, because I don't know, to me that's just the best way to start the day. You're on a high all day, you've done your jiu-jitsu, and I don't know, it's like a special kind of crazy person that does jiu-jitsu, but then an extra special crazy person that gets up and is, trying to choke each other at 6 a.m. So
I found what was interesting, it's particularly through Amma, and again, this is just anecdotal, from my experience. Like you said, it was interesting that you said it's a certain type of person. And that means a lot. So what I found is that my guys, especially in the 6 a.m., they were getting good, guys and girls, were getting good really quick. And it's like, well, for one, it's this certain motivation that you have to get up that early to do anything. And the fact that earlier in the morning, or for the most part, I think that people's retention rate is going to be better. Your attention span, your retention to information, and just, it's just different. Once you're going, for me, that first few hours of the morning, I'm going to get the most out of myself.
Yeah.
So when I found that those guys were getting, obviously I was very enthusiastic and really, happy to be there. They were coming in pumped to be there in the morning, and we were getting in some really good, solid training. We'll be an hour of, I do my hour of tech, and then people would hang around. There'd be half an hour of rolls and then troubleshooting. And it just got really tight knit where it just kept growing. I don't know. Looks, a lot of the guys were like, oh, it's you built this. And I'm like, it's not me. I'm like, I'm a part of it. Sure. I'm here and I'm structuring it and I'm getting it done, but I'm not doing anything without you guys. And we're all wired in a way that kind of forces us to be here in the morning. I don't know how that stretches across the board, whether there's like a little bit more extra kick from the 6 a.m. people in other gyms. But that's the experience I had while I was at Amma. It's definitely a different person, that's for sure.
For sure. And for me, I don't know if this is the same for every gym, but I found it a nicer way to transition back into hard rolling for me when I was first coming back from my injury. I don't know how it is at all gyms, but generally you're not going quite as hard at 6 a.m. as you would be at 6 p.m., so the level of intensity was a little bit easier for me to ease back into that full-blown 100%. So, and I I really encourage people, especially as you're getting older, and maybe, it's not that easy to roll at that 90% capacity all the time, to maybe look at some early morning classes just for your own body. Like, you can stay on the mat. I plan to stay on the mat into my 70s and 80s. I'm not sure I can keep doing that if I'm trying to match it with the killers at the 6 p.m. class every night. Like, maybe it's got to be some, mix it up a bit in
I
the
think
mornings.
it's from my experience, it's been kind of gym dependent. I know that because for us, I'm so heavy on like 6 p.m. it being the fundamentals. A lot of the beginners will come, and then 7 p.m. rolls might be a little bit quieter. Perth's a little bit different like that. We don't stay up as late. We really, I like on it. Like getting food at 10:30 at night in Perth is a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. You can't get anything decent. You're literally going to eat KFC or McDonald's or something from the servo. It's so bad. So like it doesn't. Because I know Link said like I think he starts a class at 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh man, we're done by then. So it's a little bit different in that sense. In my experience, because I had a lot of 6 a.m. crew follow me over when I'd opened up. They were a lot of like my more advanced or experienced people. So it was a bit of like a murderer's row at 6 a.m. for us.
Yeah.
Whereas at 6 p.m. you kind of come back, it'd be fundamentals, it'd be a bit more chill. And then, so it kind of depends. It's changing a little bit now because as the gym is growing and the players are getting a bit more advanced, I think naturally as the level picks up, all the classes are going to get a little bit harder as you go.
Yeah.
So
another thing it could be too is sometimes those older people have got other commitments like families and other jobs and stuff. So that's the other thing. That 6 a.m. class, you can get to like, no excuses kind of thing. Whereas trying to get to an evening class sometimes after work, you've got work stuff, you've got your family. That's what I found as well.
Yeah,
like
you can definitely
non-negotiable.
Yeah, that's right. And for me, jiu-jitsu was non-negotiable. So when my schedule started to get really busy, because I was tiling full time, and then I wanted to get away out of tiling because I wanted to do more jiu-jitsu, and tiling was breaking my hands. And I ended up going to uni doing my psychology degree. And then throughout my degree, it was full-time work, it was full-time uni, and then obviously jiu-jitsu, teaching, and then family, dad, and whatnot. So like 6 a.m., I could get up early, get my jiu-jitsu done, teach, get my rolls in, and then I had the rest of the day to go to work. Then I'd study, and then at a stage there as well, I was getting in at night and then teaching at night as well. And that went for a few years to build up to getting the gym. That was a crunch time. Like to get to the point, as I was leading up and making the plan to open up GCJ, the hours that I was putting in to get through work and get through uni to maintain the jiu-jitsu dream was extreme. And I think that's probably the point that would break most people, where it's like, man, I can't do this for 3, 4, 5 years. And honestly, in my head, I had 6 years. I was like 6, I need 2 more years. I did it for 4. I finished my degree. I didn't want to pursue my degree. I'm like, I don't even want to do that. I just want to do jiu-jitsu. How am I going to make this possible? And it was tough because even, family members, my mum's like, you went back to uni as a mature age student. You finished your degree. Now you don't want to use it. I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to help as many people as I can help sitting behind a desk. It's just not possible. Yeah. Like the ripple effect that I have from teaching a jiu-jitsu class is unbelievable. It really is. Like the effect on people is so much greater. So it was worth it. It was worth the grind, and it paid off in the end. It continues to. So,
yeah, I think that's a big part of it too, Ricky. It's when you have that passion, what you put yourself through is crazy. Like when that's your dream, people don't understand that. Like if you're working a 9-to-5 job, that's awesome. Like good for you. But if you want something different, like for you opening a gym, you will put yourself through that. And I know Link was the same. So he was working a full-time job, crazy hours, and then going to the gym, and teaching there, 4 or 5 times a week before he became full-time in jiu-jitsu. So if you want to do it, there's definitely paths to be able to do it. But if you're only half in, that's always going to be a struggle, right?
Yeah, it's just there's just so many things to take into consideration, and the biggest thing that you think it's just teaching jiu-jitsu. There's so much more than that. The people management is managing people. It probably got to be the most exhausting, from different personality types to different kids to different adults to different parents to this to that, and then sort of dealing in a way with I don't mean to say this so candidly, but with their problems as well. Being a coach, I mean, Kim is a black belt. As soon as you tie that belt around your waist, like there's this expectation that you have this knowledge or this extra special understanding of what to do or how to be. And I don't want to I obviously don't want to disappoint people and be like, don't ask me, I'm useless. But I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm a black belt. Like, ask me for everything. Like, I'll give you financial advice and everything else as well. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm the wrong guy, right?
Yeah.
But I think the way that I manage it is, I just try and be there for people as authentically as I can, as a friend. And I think if your gym has the right community and you attract the right members, you end up retaining the right members, and they're family and friends anyway. Like when I came to Dominance here, everyone I spoke to is like I'd already known. I had a chat with Kim, I had a chat with yourself, I had a chat with Link, and it feels so comfortable, and you really don't get that anywhere else than jiu-jitsu, hey, which is cool.
Yeah. You mentioned that prior to starting up your academy, you were a tiler, and then you went into study psychology. What brought that about? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I tiled for like I think I mentioned earlier, probably 15 years, and it was breaking my body. You can make good money and whatnot, but it just wasn't. I was literally hating life every second I woke up. I'm like, I can't do this, but I needed an out. I didn't want it to be something as physical, and I've always had a keen interest in psychology. I'd sit there and read Viktor Frankl or listen to like some random Harvard lecture or whatever. And it was actually a friend of mine, another black belt in Dunnikin, who's at the Academy of Mixed Martial Arts, who I had a conversation with him one day. He's like, man, why don't you just go back to uni? Like, you like all these things. We talk about these things. Like, I'll help you out. I think he had like an adjunct, like a fellowship at some university, and he kind of wrote me a letter and helped me get in. So I pursued psychology because it interested me. And then, it ended up being the perfect storm because I was late blue purple belt when I went to uni, and then I was learning psychology, which is everything to do about learning and teaching and how the brain works and how to be, are they kinesthetic learners, are they audible learning, are they visual learners? It's all these different things. And it just like, as I'm teaching jiu-jitsu, I'm learning this thing, and I'd learn it at uni. I'm like, oh, so that's how you teach. And then I just naturally carried it across the class. So it's like a perfect storm of learning how to teach while I was teaching at the same time. And I didn't know whether I was doing it right or wrong, but what was happening is I was getting a lot of people coming to class. That's the only measuring stick that I had about what I was doing and whether I was doing it right or wrong. It's just people kept coming. Like, man, this makes a lot of sense, or I'm having a lot of success with this now. And then I just ran with it. And then, fortunate enough, Adam was there to support the cause as well. He'd never discouraged me. He was like, absolutely, gave me as many, classes that he could. And then, it was just that uni, jiu-jitsu, the mindset of it all, the grinding. And then I got to the end of it, and when the opportunity came up, full circle back to Andrew and having the conversation, he was just like, man, everything has just stacked into place, and it's taken out as long as it's taken, but like, this is it. This is it. And we're presenting it to you. You're either going to pull the trigger or you're not. And there is that hesitation because pulling the trigger isn't just saying, hey, yeah, let's do this. It's insurances, rent, overheads, this, that. You got a lease agreement that lasts for, could be anywhere between 3 to 5 years, whatever you've agreed on. It's like, dude, you're not going anywhere for that. You might get 6 months in and go, oh, this is rough, or this is not for me.
What have I done?
Too bad. I was very certain that wouldn't be the case. I really, really knew that if I jump, I'm going to jump, purely just off the back of the body of work that I put in previously. And then, it was just like, let's go for it, man. So,
mate, it's really cool. Can we jump back a little bit? You mentioned competition before. Tell us about your first comp. Do you remember it? And tell us about any future plans. So we just had Troy Skidmore on a couple of weeks ago, and he's got this goal of having 100 matches in a year at black belt.
Yep.
And it's a cool goal, right? Super excited to see the data that he gets from it, because that's kind of part of the reason he's doing it. But tell us about your first sort of comp, and then going forward comp goals, especially as you say, like owning the gym.
So my first comp, I made one of my original goals was I'm going to compete at every belt, and I've managed to do that, which is cool. So white belt, I remember my first white belt comp well. It was actually funny because the dude that I versed first happened to be a gentleman with one leg. And gave me the most difficult fight of my life. Like, it was it was full on. And that was a real wake up call because you have this idea of what you're capable of. And, the guy's, whatever physical disability he has. But man, it was rough. I ended up getting the win. And then, a second match I got submitted by I can't remember if it was a guillotine or a loop choke or something like that. But I just sprinted at the guy, did no jiu-jitsu whatsoever, rugby tackled him, pulled my hamstring, stood up and just went, this is not going to go well. And then ended up being unconscious a couple seconds later. I'm like, that was the worst. But it's a funny story. And I actually like to tell this one. I got a medal. It's honestly how the medals are big now. This thing was tiny, right? Little bronze medal. It was from, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Matt Shark from Perth, Adam Metcalfe. So it was a Matt Shark competition. So a little Matt Shark, little bronze medal. And I took the medal home and I'm like, I didn't want to borrow it. I'm like, that sucked. I didn't even play jiu-jitsu, blah, blah, blah. I sat in the car and my oldest son, Chase, went, oh, you won a medal. And he's like, can I wear it? And I'm like, yeah, man. He didn't take it off for a week. He couldn't believe it. It was the greatest thing in the world that his dad had won a medal. And I honestly think that was one of the initial triggers that turned him into the competitor that he is today. My older boy, he's exceptionally good. Not just because he's my son, just my two kids are wired differently. One's a lot more of an entrepreneur and kind of philanthropist. My older boy is very, very competitive and he's really hell-bent on his jiu-jitsu. So I kind of, that first competition, I think sort of started to pave the way. Moving forward, Blue Belt was really active for me. Grappling Industries in Sydney, Machado Nationals in Melbourne, bunch of local Perth comps. Purple Belt started off really active as well. Then we started coming to COVID. And then COVID really, I took a big hit in COVID. I think I competed my last brown belt just before or just after COVID. I can't remember. Had a really inactive brown belt competition, sort of lifespan. And then as black belt came on and did my first comp a couple months ago. Yeah, and just felt a little bit rusty. Still, did my thing. Didn't end up getting the result that I wanted, which is here nor there. I got the data that I wanted. I copped a little bit of an injury in the meantime. I'm having a little bit of an internal battle at the moment with injuries and competing and putting my body on the line, purely because of the fact of the position that the gym is in at the moment. We're young. I teach all the classes. I'm very cautious of how the parents look at me as well and how I present myself. As the head coach, it doesn't look good to be in a sling or limping all the time. I've actually had a mum walk up to me. She goes, you got a little, it's like, is my son going to get hurt all the time? Is that what? And I'm like, nah, this is I kind of played it off and I was like, but it was something, it was something that I took into consideration because I'm like, man, I know that I am injury prone as well. So I can't just freely go, I'm going to compete. If I get injured, then I don't care. And I did it when I was like, whatever, if I get it, we'll deal with it and then move forward. But now I'm like, hang on, if I get injured, then this and this and this and this. So a big part of coming back to competition for me is making sure that I condition myself properly. So that's been getting the recovery right, adding in strength and conditioning, looking at how Lincoln's a perfect example. Taking a note from Lincoln's book or taking a page from Lincoln's book and starting to get ducks in a row like that in how I split my training and how I'm getting my strength and conditioning. And that's a real big part of it where my jiu-jitsu alone is just not cutting it at this level. It just doesn't. You need to be physical. I'm not old, so the guys I'm coming up against, you know what Lincoln's like, man, and he's older than me. So, guy's a machine.
Yeah. He has his share of injuries too, I think.
I bet.
He's not bulletproof.
Yeah, definitely. So that's moving forward. I'm definitely not going to rule it out. Competing again. I definitely want to compete again. I think for the time being, my son Chase is one of my main focuses. Obviously, all of my students. That goes without saying. Making sure the club is sustainable and keeps doing what it's doing and keeps delivering the product that I want it to deliver as well. I would hate to start to my competitions, and then I'm not focusing on the gym, and then the gym starts to drop off. It's like, nah, man, you've got to make sure that all the ducks are in a row. So, yeah.
And speaking of competitions, for anybody that's watching, let's take a moment to just appreciate Brentos's background there of his beautiful competition medals that he has. He's just set up, and I feel very inadequate here.
Yeah, it's funny you say. I was just saying to Fran earlier when I was set up at the gym before I came, and like at the gym, it's like I got my nice little black belt certificate, a few little logos, and I like got it all nice. I'm like, this is going to be perfect. And just as I finished class, the boys are still hanging around and rolling. And I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to make it. Like, quick, Chase, get in the car. Like, we got to speed home so I can get. And then, so yeah, now you've got my lovely cupboard doors to look at in the back.
You're showing us up, Brent. What's going on? Yeah.
There are a few of these silver medals are because of our good friend Theo, mate. So I was talking to Theo about this. I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever get a gold over the top of this big fella, but
you can only see the ribbons, man. So don't worry about it. You can only see the ribbons. It doesn't count.
Oh, good.
I got lucky.
We're nearly out of time, Ricky. Do you have any final words for our listeners? Any parting thoughts?
Nah, look, what I will leave you with, I suppose just a little bit of jiu-jitsu advice, I think, for newcomers or for people who are in that struggle.
Please.
And it's something that I struggle with a lot and I really try and put across to my students. And it's as simple as this. Don't equate your self-worth to your jiu-jitsu. They do not go hand in hand. How good your jiu-jitsu is has no bearing on who you are or how you are as a person whatsoever. And it's the biggest issue that I see with new people, not even with new people, just in general. And it's the reason that I wanted to say this is it's not just a hindrance to your jiu-jitsu, but it's a hindrance to your life. Because no matter when you leave, if you feel like your jiu-jitsu is crap and you're crap, then everything else is crap. Jiu-jitsu should not be that. The reason we all started was because it's fun. Have fun. Come with a smile. Leave with a smile. You get tapped 100 times, don't worry about it. It's going to happen more and more the older you get. So yeah, if I could just leave it at that, is don't equate your self-worth with your jiu-jitsu, and remember that fun comes first always. Yeah.
Awesome. No, great advice.
Awesome thing to actually, to talk about, to be honest. I actually think with that, get how to learn.
Yeah.
And, doing psychology for you, like, learning how to learn is so important. And I know myself, like doing jiu-jitsu for a little bit now, and then all of a sudden we were doing a rolling Kimura trap today, and I feel like it's my first day of doing jiu-jitsu. You're just like, what am I doing? And you're like, I'm shit.
Imagine that happens when you're a black belt. You're like, what? Yeah. What have I been doing my whole life?
Yeah. But you just got to realize that, no, this is your first day of doing it. You'll get better, and I think that's one of the best lessons that I've had through jiu-jitsu is like, no, you're not shit. You just need more repetitions.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
For sure.
So don't leave going, I'm shit. Sit there and go, I need more reps.
Just you want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that, eh? Ricky, thank you, mate. I knew this episode was going to be a good one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome to see you. Really looking forward to having you back over in Melbourne at some stage.
Yeah, we're back we're back on the 7th. We'll be back Friday night. The 7th of Feb. We'll be in for training. Chase is jumping into Grappling Industries on Sunday, the 9th, I think it is. So yeah, we'll be back there for a couple of days, and hopefully we'll bump into you guys again. I really enjoyed the chat. So
sure.
Thank you for reaching out and having me on.
We might only have this episode out just prior to that, actually. So we've got a couple saved up, so it'll be good.
Yeah, awesome. No, thanks a lot for having me, guys. I had a lot of fun, and I'd appreciate being on again anytime. So that was good.
No,
we appreciate it. Also, guys, Athletic Body Care Soap, we're going to have a discount code. So if you'd like something like this, it's awesome. I used it for the first time today. I've got the activated charcoal one. It's black, so in the white shower, it looks freaking awesome. Nice. So Athletic Body Care, check out the links below. Roll or Die t-shirts. I'm not saying we've got any, but they are bloody awesome. I don't know if we've got any left, but I'll tell you what.
Yeah, we still do.
I'm loving
we still
mine.
Got some.
Hey, there you go.
Send us a message and we'll hook you up.
Awesome.
So we've got a couple of cool sponsors with that. Tell your friends about the podcast. Share this as widely as you can. To all of our friends over in Perth. Ricky, appreciate you coming on. Say hello to all your guys over there.
Whoa.
And we will see you on the next episode of Roll or Die very, very soon. Peace out.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, guys.